Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Today we're going to be looking at Andromeda number 6, concluding our examination of this Canadian sci-fi anthology from the 70s. This is the special Alan Dean Foster special. This is the only issue that the whole issue is all Alan Dean Foster stories, adaptations of his stuff. And this cover illustrates one of these stories. It's by Tom Nesbitt. And I kind of like this, all this foo-fur up here, these fairies and demons, and just the logo itself looks really good. Pretty sharp cover, pretty cute. Tom Nesbitt, that's what he specializes in, drawing little elfy, gnomey type people. We have an inside front cover, which gives us a little bio of Alan Dean Foster, and a little drawing by Dean Motter. Kind of weird that Alan Dean Foster gets such special treatment, because as far as I know, he's not that renowned in science fiction. He's pretty much known for doing hundreds of movie novelizations. That's his bread and butter. He's most famous for doing ghostwriting Star Wars, the original novelization. But he was more well known because his name was actually allowed on the cover, was Splinter in the Mind's Eye, which was the first, authorized Star Wars book sequel. But he's done Star Trek books and just so many movies over the years. But other than that, I don't think he's ever, done anything that great. Contents page, we have a nice illustration from Ken Stacy. This is the only appearance of Stacy in Andromeda. I imagine if they continued, he would have contributed more, because, he's a Canadian and he loved doing sci-fi comics. So I'm surprised he wasn't in Andromeda. He never got to do a story, but that would have been a perfect fit. The first story is Why Johnny Can't Speed. Adaptation B.P. Nickel and art by Peter Sue. Peter Sue, you might remember, I think in that mid to late 80s, 90s, he had a comic called Quadrant, which was like very airbrushy, black and white. Came out during the black and white boom, but also very mature readers only, like lots of sexy ladies. And I don't think it was softcore, but it was just like really, it was basically people bought it. Teenagers bought it for the sexiness of it. You can see even in 1979 when this issue came out, he's really damn good already. In fact, I like this more because his 80s and 90s work is kind of like a little too slick and airbrushy, it's kind of soulless. This is pretty good. I kind of like the art in this, even though it's obviously he's already into the airbrush. So the story is very silly. It takes place in this weird near future where, because the government is tired of, they don't have enough money to supply mass transit to everyone and patrol the highways, they've basically ceded the authority of the highways. So if you're on the highways, you can basically just kill anyone you want. If some car is bothering you, is trying to cut you off, you could totally just kill them. It's all legal as long as it's, certain rules are met. It's such a dumb idea. So when the story starts off with this married couple, they just got a letter from the highway patrol that their son has been killed on the highway by a black GM Caddy marauder. And it's nothing they can do. He didn't break any laws by killing their son. So the father's talking about it. He's like, I told him not to go. He wasn't even prepared. I told him to take my car, my kick-ass vehicle. He took his dumb VW Bug. And he basically vows to finish the mission his son started, to honor his son. I guess the son was traveling to Diego. For some reason, they dropped the sand in San Diego in the near future. And he's going to deliver this package, whatever the hell it is. I don't even think they tell us, in honor of his memory. And instead of it, he could take the mass transit, which is totally safe. That's what most people take. But he's like, no, I'm going to take the highways. Just to be a macho guy, to be cool. Apparently, he's like a known guy, like road warrior. He's very well regarded, almost like a fighting ace, on the highway. So he goes to his local mechanic, and he wants to get his car in tip-top shape. And of course, there's all these crazy doodads he adds. But in this future, as you can imagine, a car mechanic's job isn't just to make your engine run smoothly. It's also to put in armament. Because if you're going to drive these highways and freeways, you want to have some good armament. So he tricks him out all like a James Bond car, gives him missiles and mines and all this crazy stuff. And I like this little touch here, just like a fighting ace in World War II. He's got a little markings for all the cars he's taken out on the road. So apparently this mechanic, I guess all the mechanics have, they know the scuttlebutt. And he tells them about this black marauder, this caddy marauder. And apparently this guy does his own work and he should really watch out for him. His car could take out a Greyhound bus knot, he says. Here we get the little backstory of how they did this, why the law changed. It says in the Supreme Court in like 1979, which I guess, I don't know when he wrote this. I think actually, I do know, it was like 72 or 73. It was ruled that all attempts to regulate interstate nonstop highway systems were in direct violation of the First Amendment, which is so dumb that like murdering someone on the highway, anyone could interpret that as to be a violation of the First Amendment, the freedom of speech. Is pretty silly. But then again, corporations have freedom of speech and lobbyists, so their money is speech. So I guess that's maybe just as crazy. So we see him out on the highway. Anyone who gets in his way, they're like, sorry, mister, because they recognize that he's a formidable road warrior type guy. Peter Sue gets to draw this kind of crazy sci-fi futuristic stuff. And so, like, within a few minutes, he's already, like, some cars attacking him, and he's fighting back. I gotta say that, I don't know if I'm just an idiot, but I think that Peter Sue had, I don't know, I think it's the storytelling, because there's so many instances in these pages where I'm like, okay, so he just blew up that car, it looks like. And then a minute later, that same car is driving, looking fine. And I'm like, but it looks like he got blown up there, but apparently that's another car. So maybe I'm an idiot, but I'm pretty sure it's a lack of clear storytelling going on. This young girl, kind of sorority girl, starts fucking with him, pulls up next to him, gives him the finger. He just runs her off the road. Some bikers come up. I gotta say, if this was a movie, this would be a pretty kick-ass Roger Corman movie. Some nice low-budget sci-fi movie. This would be pretty kick-ass. And then who should show up? Of course, the caddy marauder. I don't know how he knows it's that guy. Maybe because it's got is that supposed to represent a VW bug, like as a kill? But I'm sure this guy would have many more kills because he's, known, he's notorious. I don't know. It's a dumb premise for the story all around. So they begin their road battle. Once again, I'm a little confused in a lot of these battles. I'm like, wait, who's... Because, like, we see the marauder, the caddy, launch a missile at our hero. It looks like his car's totaled. Like, it's blowing up. But apparently he's still in the game, and he drops a landmine. And that blows up the caddy. Yeah, this art's pretty nice. And then he walks up to the exploded caddy. And he grabs the license plate off as a trophy. And he says, "This is for your grave, son." He's going to put it on his son's grave. Some of these explosions and smoke effects, the airbrush stuff is really nice. It's really interesting. I didn't really point that out earlier, but That's the one nice thing about the airbrush. Pretty wicked looking. And he pulls away. His car, even though it just got hit by a missile, seems to be fine. Kind of interesting, it says, sound effects affectionately dedicated to Alex Toth. And they are very good sound effects, I gotta say. Really good throughout the story. Such a dumb idea, and yet, to be honest, who cares? It's like it's an excuse to have this kick-ass sci-fi action story. So once you just get over the dumb premise, it's like, ooh, it's kind of fun. This thing is so annoying. Where do you get those ideas? And it's Alan Dean Foster basically talking to the reader. And he's saying, you know, people always ask me where I get my ideas. Well, let me tell you something. I got millions of them. I could live 1,000 lifetimes and never share the contents of my brilliant brain. He doesn't say brilliant, but it comes across like he's just bragging about just how imaginative he is and how many brilliant ideas he has. And he doesn't have enough time to write the novels. He might have had more time to write his own ideas if he wasn't doing every other movie novelization for 30 years, you know? And it's just very obnoxious, very annoying. It's sad that it's in here. But it is an excuse to get this great Paul Rivich drawing. Rivich? That's some beautiful airbrush shit there. It's a weird cosmic typewriter. It's pretty cool. And here we have the bulk of the issue, the metronome, with a G. Kind of clever, kind of cute. And this is illustrated by Tom Nesbitt. This front piece is pretty nice. I like his, whimsical art. He's kind of perfect for this kind of story. So as you can see, unfortunately, though, this is basically just a prose story illustrated, not comics, so I don't like it as much right off the bat. So basically, it's kind of humorous, though. It's kind of a cute little story. We see this, there's this guy, Charlie Dimsdale. He works for the Subway Transit Authority in New York City. He's down in the subways. He's got I guess some switch is acting up. He's got to turn it off or on, something is causing the computer to malfunction. And when he's down there, all of a sudden he sees walking through the subway wall, he sees this guy, and he's a gnome. But for some reason, he's wearing a Brooks Brothers suit and smoking his cigar. And they begin a conversation. And, of course, Charlie at first just doesn't believe that he's a gnome. And the gnome just thinks Charlie's a moron because he doesn't seem to understand anything he's saying. And they just continue to talk as they walk through the subway. It's pretty funny dialogue. It's cute, you know, it's good. The gnome's name is Van Groot, by the way. So that Van Groot admits that he was the one who flipped that switch. Because I guess it was bothering the other gnome miners. So the conceit behind the story is that, you know, the gnomes came to the New World. And then, you know, as America got more urbanized, they moved to the cities too. And I guess there's plenty of jewels and gems to mine under these major cities, like New York. So they've been in New York for a while, and they, under the noses of everyone, under the skyscrapers and everything, they've been mining for precious metals. I guess for somehow this thing was bothering the miners, and that's why he switched it off. He tells Charlie about how, you know, yeah, we've been here since the first ships came over. You know, we came over from Ireland. And we see some gnomes at Valley Forge with George Washington. He talks about, we're not just in New York City, the gnomes are everywhere in America. And we all dress differently. So there's a Texas gnome, and there's a Florida gnome, and a Hollywood gnome. Where his fashion, I don't even understand that fashion. It's just crazy. He says New York City is kind of perfect because at night they can go out. And, you know, people see them. It's not like they're invisible. But New York is such a place that New Yorkers are so used to seeing crazy shit all the time and just letting it go that it works to the gnome's favor. Yeah, sometimes people do see these gnomes sitting in Central Park and they're just like, ooh, I had too much to drink. Or that's New York for you, you know? So New York's kind of perfect for them. We see that one of those mining carts, and there's 3 other gnomes. They just come through one wall and go out the other one. So basically they cut a deal. Eventually Van Groot says, okay, listen, I'll turn off the switch, or I'll let you turn it off. But you got to do me a favor. Word has it that you're building a subway station right over one of our mines somewhere in New York City. And the gnomes are going to go on strike. And when gnomes go on strike, they're quite spiteful, mischievous beings. And he's like, gnomes go on strike? And he's like, and he basically admits that, yeah, remember the big blackout of the mid-70s in New York City and the whole Eastern Seaboard? That was because the gnomes went on strike. So now the gnomes have teamed up with the Vermont gnomes. And this time they're threatening to pour maple syrup into the telephone lines. I don't know how that would work, but it would mess up everything. So he says, if you can stop this before midnight tomorrow night, you know, come back here and let me know if you stopped it or not. If you don't do that, they're going on strike, and this is going to happen. This mass chaos will ensue for you humans. And Charlie tries to explain. He's like, I'm a total low man on the totem pole. I don't have the authority to stop a subway station from being built. He's like, that's your problem. You got, 24 hours to figure it out. So the next day, Charlie's trying to just enjoy his day like normal, but he can't, of course. He just keeps thinking about just the chaos that's going to ensue. But he knows he can't do anything. He's powerless. So by nightfall, he starts getting drunk. And he gets a little more drunk than he thought. He just wanted to have a few shots to clear his mind, and then he ends up drinking 2 bottles of booze that he had hidden in the cupboards. As he's leaving the apartment, he sees his neighbor, this beautiful newscaster, the weather lady from Channel 8. And she, barely notices him. And she never has. So Charlie left the house so he could go to a bar because he wanted more booze. He drank himself out of his alcohol, and now he wants more. But then he gets an idea, and it's not a good idea. He's just blotto. So he knocks on his coworker Bill Johnson's door. He's a meteorologist. And he's got company. He's obviously with a lady because he comes to the door in his underwear. And he's like, you got to help me. I need a seismic reading at this location. He's like, are you fucking crazy? Get the hell out of here. But Charlie keeps insisting. He won't let it go. Bill's getting more and more mad at him and realizes that he's drunk and maybe insane. But luckily for Charlie, the woman who's over there, this sweet young woman named Abigail, she seems kind of naive. She's all like, oh, invite him in, Bill. And she hears about the story and she's like, oh, we have to help him. Let's go. This will be fun. So Bill is like, oh, fine, fuck. Yes, we'll do it. They've only got 2 hours because it's getting late. So they go down to this construction site. And Bill does the seismic reading. And he's like, damned if you're not right, Charlie. There's a huge empty spot down there under the ground. It's like a cave. And it would have been incredibly dangerous if we built the station here. So we'll have to move it. I'll tell my bosses immediately. So Charlie runs off to meet Van Groot because he has to meet him before midnight so the gnomes don't go on strike. Here's Bill and Abigail. They're all happy and kissy. So Van Groot's down there. He's all dressed differently now. And, basically thanks him. And he gives him a flagon flange, which I don't know what that is. It seems to be this little piece of jewelry. He gives Charlie that as a gift. I think earlier they were talking about the flagon flage, how it attracts things. It can attract certain things. But he doesn't think anything of it. He just thinks, give me a piece of jewelry. So he goes home to crash, and later that night, there's a knocking on his door, and it's the weather lady from across the hall. And, usually she never had the time of day for him, but she comes in and she takes off her robe and starts kissing him. And obviously they have sex. And Charlie realizes, he says, now he knew what a flagon flange attracted. So that's the cute little ending there. Pretty entertaining, fun little story. Kind of silly, but kind of good. So next we have Thrust, which is adapted by Don Marshall. And this is another one of those stories like I was talking about last time, where this story really stuck with me over the years. Because when I was a teenager, I had this comic, and I reread it a lot. And it not only stuck with me, but it made a lot of things stick together back then. But I haven't read this in 20 years, so it's kind of fascinating seeing it again. It just hits you like, God, how long did I stare at some of these panels? So it's about this space mission. They're going to Barnard's Star, which I think is the closest star system to Earth, if I remember my astronomy. It's still a 16-year journey, though. So this group of scientists is heading there, planning on it being 16 years. And the whole thing, these captions, are all narrated by the captain. This is like the captain's log. And so the one thing they have, ace in the hole, is apparently there's this alien device. They don't explain where they found it, but they're going to experiment on it. They're going to use this mission as a trial run for it. And the woman kind of in charge of that whole part of it is Dr. Oyo, this woman here. And this is how she dresses. And this is why I liked this comic a lot when I was 13. Really nice art by Don Marshall. God, I love this guy. Look at this. This is beautiful. I wish this was in color. That would be amazing. Still doing that very Vaughn Bodeo style for the captions. So they pass out of the solar system. And as the days and weeks and months go by, morale gets kind of low. These people are like, we're stuck in the spaceship for 16 years. And, that's hard for anyone. So this is strange. They have these like kind of group sessions, and Dr. Oyo presides over them. And they basically just sit around going, om, like meditation sessions. Supposedly this activates that alien device. I don't know how. The science is way beyond explanation, I imagine. But it actually kind of works, but it doesn't work very well. After the first session, they look at the charts and they're like, oh, we're going to arrive 3 days ahead of schedule now because of that session. So he's not too thrilled with this alien device if it's only going to shave off a few days here and there from a 16-year journey. Excuse me. So they keep doing this, and I guess they're using like space jump technology, but it's still going to take 16 years though. And as the days go on, one of the scientists discovers that there's a complex protein chain that shouldn't be in their food, but is. He studies it and realizes it's not harmful at all. So the captain just says, don't worry about it then. If it's not harmful, who cares? And meanwhile, though, things are getting steamy on the ship. I guess everyone's bored, and people start hooking up. The captain runs into these two getting down in the hydroponic chambers and backs away bashfully. But more and more, it seems like people aren't showing up for their duties. And meanwhile, the captain's getting closer to Dr. Oyo. I mean, he's just saying like, oh, she's just a very helpful person. She really alleviates my loneliness, and she's a good friend. So more and more of them start hooking up, and more of them start not even giving a shit about the mission anymore. The captain can't deny that Dr. Oyo is stacked She's like a brick shit house. And one day while they're trying to do some work, she just, look at this. This is why I liked this comic a lot when I was 13. So everyone's just, they're having orgies together. And I like how this couple are 2/3 of the way through a dramatic version of the Kama Sutra. So they're still in that second jump, their space jump. They haven't come out of it yet. I don't know how that works, but they're, I don't know, interdimensional, whatever, Framistat stuff. And when they come out of the jump, they're at Bernard Star. It's only been 90 days. It was supposed to be 16 years. So that alien device did seem to work really well. Bernard Star has a bunch of planets around it. 2 of them are very Earth-like, so they're very excited. And they land on this planet. It's beautiful. It's like an Eden. And then they realized what those mysterious proteins were in the food. They were aphrodisiacs and pheromones. Because they knew that the best theoretical way to operate the multiplier was to try and multiply. If they knew their inhibitions might have gotten in the way. Undistorted mental output engages the space-time distortion. The space-time distortion of the Molinon multiplier. That output peaks during the act of sex. So he's like, yeah, score 1 for the brainiacs back on Earth, but I wish they didn't trick us about it, because they didn't tell them about it. So they kind of tricked them all into doing this. Of course, he really doesn't mind. He's had a very good time. They all have. And basically, they're taking samples on this planet, and they're going to head home, and they'll do their damnedest to get one of the scientists home in time for his rugby playoffs, which is like in 30 days. So I guess they're going to hump extra. They're going to have even more sex to really speed along the journey. Really fun little cute story. And God, I love the art. Don Marshall's so good. Really good stuff. They actually have a whole bibliography of Alan Dean Foster here. And as you can see, almost all of them are Star Trek books at this time. And we have a nice back cover by Peter Sue. Pretty exciting. That's a pretty cool cover. Nice design. So there you have it, guys. The end of an era. Andromeda number 6. The last issue. Of course, a lot of these guys will go on to other stuff. Obviously, Dean Motter go on to Mr. X and Paul Rivich. And, he went on to help with Mr. X and became a very successful graphic designer. And yeah, a lot of these guys. But unfortunately, I don't know what the fuck happened to Don Marshall. And even Tom Nesbitt. I kind of like his stuff. And I can imagine, God, even 5 years after this, he could have gotten really good. So I got to track those guys down, see what happened. But really, Don Marshall's my favorite. And just a really great cartoonist with a great style. Kind of reminds me of Dennis Fujitaki. That just nice, clean, open cartooning style. Hope you guys enjoyed looking at these, and I hope to see you next time here at the Herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.